Good morning, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Season 2020 update, part of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion for September 13th, 2020, recorded on 11:23 a.m. Eastern Time. Taking a live look across the tropics right now, looking at Tropical Storm Sally sitting off the western coast of the Florida Peninsula. This is now moving off towards the west-northwest here and is expected to continue that motion throughout the remaining couple of days before landfall. Now, the system remains disorganized this morning with a deep convective burst that has occurred on the eastern side of this system and of the center of circulation, which is reasonably inferred to be located right in through here. And that's going to be the main question mark, is when can this convection try to rotate up shear? Currently, it has not done so, and all of the convection remains lopsided off towards the eastern part of this system. And again, that's going to be very crucial for the overall evolution of the storm to see how much it actually intensifies going forward with time. Right now, the storm has not really consolidated that energy mass, and we still are left with a pretty broad area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms stretching all the way from the east coast of Florida all the way to near where the low-level center is. And the best concentration of those showers and thunderstorms remains heavily on the eastern side of this, which means that this will by far be a far eastern weighted system, at least for the next 24 hours or so. Now, taking a look across the rest of the tropics, we are also watching Hurricane Paulette, Tropical Depression Rene, and Tropical Depression 20, likely to be Tropical Storm Teddy later tonight. And a lot of question marks remain around this system. And also, we have Invest Area 97L and another wave that's going to be coming off of Africa with a low chance of developing over the next 5 days. So again, a look here at Tropical Storm Sally, and a couple things to note here this morning. First of all, we still do have some of that northwesterly shear being impinged on our system, and that northwesterly shear is going to cause a bit of a problem, and this is helping to keep storms from rotating up shear at the moment. If you take a look here at the Melbourne radar, we still have most of our energy consolidated and kind of focused on the eastern side here from Tampa, from basically east of the center all the way through near Tampa. We have a pretty large area of impact here. So all the way to near Tampa, we are getting some impacts regarding this storm, and that's going to be the main key kind of going forward, is we're likely to see impacts continue throughout today all the way into the Florida Peninsula. Now, eventually, when this shear does start to abate, which will occur later today and in through tomorrow, we probably will start to see these storms rotate up shear. But when that happens remains the biggest key at the moment, and it's not exactly entirely likely that we will get something along the lines of a pretty strong hurricane moving forward at that time. It is not necessarily a guarantee, but it is something that we will be watching. As for Hurricane Paulette, we have noticed pretty significant changes. First of all, this is the island of Bermuda right there. So that is the island of Bermuda, and we are starting to see more indications of upshear convection rotating around. And this means that we have a pretty healthy low-level center where the low and mid-level centers have become better consolidated. We did have a little bit of dry air intrusion earlier, kind of this little area right here, but that is now getting mixed out pretty rapidly, pretty significantly. Now we're getting pretty much a deep convective burst to cover, and we have this eye-like feature right here, suggesting this is now becoming a pretty potent hurricane at the moment, with an eye-like feature that is surrounding and trying to clear out. Now, as we look here at Tropical Depression 20, again, the depression remains poorly organized at the moment. We do have a southern side of convection here that is trying to rotate around, and that will be doing so as we kind of progress throughout the rest of the evening. This deep convective burst you can see is located on the southern side, and it is trying to rotate around and wrap around, although we have not kind of gotten that yet. Though we do have more deep convection firing on the western side, this may help to kind of reinforce that, and we may get kind of this feedback loop where the storms start to rotate kind of in the up shear direction and around our exposed northern side, which we have a pretty exposed northern side at the moment, which is really hindering any sort of formation of an inner core structure, as we also still have some shear. If we look here at the official track forecast from the National Hurricane Center regarding Tropical Storm Sally, right now we have hurricane warnings in effect from just west of the New Orleans metropolitan area all the way through Lake Pontchartrain and near the Mississippi, Alabama, Florida border, with hurricane watches from about Mobile Bay to portions of the far western Florida Panhandle, tropical storm warnings east of that, and tropical storm watches to near Tallahassee, Pensacola, etc. Tropical storm warnings off towards the west here, west of that hurricane warning. Now, again, this is expected to be coming in as a hurricane over the next couple of days, with sustained winds now expected to be right around 90 to 100 miles per hour, right at the landfall point, with storm surge values approaching 7 to 11 feet, and that could even go higher if our storm is going to intensify even further. Again, this is expected to be a hurricane by tomorrow morning. By early tomorrow morning, this is expected to be a hurricane on approach into and just near the Louisiana metro. So this is obviously not a good situation. So everyone there needs to take, precautions. Everyone there needs to take this seriously, as this could be a dangerous event that is going to be unfolding for portions of far eastern Louisiana. And again, we saw with Hurricane Laura in western Louisiana, this is not going to be Category 4, but this definitely has a chance to be a stronger Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane. As for Hurricane Paulette, again, this is expected to make its approach here and probably make landfall in Bermuda by late tonight and early tomorrow morning. By tomorrow morning, this is now beginning to pull away, still intensifying, and is now expected by the Hurricane Center to become a major hurricane, only the second major hurricane of the season, well towards the northeast of Bermuda. This will be on the way out, but this will be generating swells that will be radiating outward from time to time, moving all the way towards the western or the far eastern United States, and even towards portions of eastern Bahamas and the Lesser Antilles over the next several days. Eventually, this will kind of round that ridge and also weaken at this time, becoming post-tropical by later this week on Friday. So again, right now for Bermuda, the biggest concerns remain gusty winds, obviously very dangerous conditions, heavy rainfall, flooding, storm surge, obviously very damaging winds remain the biggest concern. And if this does come in just a little bit to the west of Bermuda, you'll be put in that right front quadrant. But again, this is still intensifying as it nears Bermuda and will likely be intensifying all the way even past Bermuda. So unfortunately, this looks like that this could be a bad situation, as unfortunately a strengthening storm is likely to bring more of the worst type impacts to Bermuda. And again, you can see that inner core structure is pretty nice this morning and is going to continue as it moves west-northwest here over the next several days, and probably get to near or just right over Bermuda, then take that turn right on out to sea at that time. Now, if we also look here at Tropical Depression 20, again, a lot of questions remain on this storm, and we have seen a westerly trend today, really from last night and today, evolving with the ever-evolving forecast. Now, this is expected to continue to be intensifying, becoming a tropical storm tonight, and then a hurricane by Tuesday. And again, this is expected to then intensify to near major hurricane intensity by late Thursday and into Friday, moving off towards the north-northwest. However, we have started to see signs that this may not exactly be the case, and we've started to see some trends in the track forecast that have shifted a little bit further towards the west with each run. So we're going to have to monitor just how that kind of goes, and we'll talk about why that is here in a second. Elsewhere across the tropics, we do have this little area disturbance. Not really concerned about this. Maybe some showers to portions of Mexico. Obviously, there's Tropical Depression 20. There's another low chance, and here is Invest Area 97L. No threats to land at the moment from these two systems, so we're not going to spend a lot of time focusing on them. Now, over the next couple of days here, what's going to be happening is we're going to start to see a little bit of a pattern change here in the really in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're going to be mainly now focusing here on Tropical Storm Sally, as we really know much of the impacts for Tropical Storm, or I'm sorry, Hurricane Paulette will be much of the same as it kind of comes out here. Now, again, real quickly though, what was responsible for the shear to Hurricane Paulette was this big upper level low sitting here, and another upper level low sitting well towards the northeast off the top of the screen here. This was inducing southwesterly shear. Now, since the outflow of Paulette has become more established, we are actually forcing a cutoff of this low pressure. This has now become a cutoff low, and it's just standing out here. Now, this is still pushing a little bit of south and southeasterly shear on the storm, but it is not really a lot at the moment, and the storm is going to be continuing to intensify as it moves off towards Bermuda and then off towards the north and east. Now, in the Gulf of Mexico here with Tropical Storm Sally, we've been having an upper level low kind of just sitting across this area over the last several days, and we'll kind of back this up to where it was earlier. And you can see that we did kind of have this upper level feature here, this little broad upper level low, and it's not really kind of shown here in the wind streams, but we did have actually some northwesterly shear that was being impinged on our storm over the last couple of days, and that has kept the deep convection off towards the south and southeast. Now, eventually here on the GFS forecast, we get the storm within 24 hours to move under an upper level anticyclone and the shear to decrease to right around 5 to 10 knots, indicate more of a strengthening trend over the next couple of days, and this is expected to become a hurricane by tomorrow morning. Now, whether or not this really does happen or not remains the big question, but it is going to certainly be something that we are going to have to monitor. Now, the latest HWRF model from the 0Z run did show much of the similar scenario to this, where within 24 hours, this is by 0Z Monday or 8 p.m. tomorrow night, we now start to get this storm under the upper level anticyclone, and you can see that on the eastern side of this, we do have some shear, but it's not really that much, and because of this upper level anticyclone, the shear is not able to really break into our storm environment. Now, we do have a trough that's kind of digging through here. This is kind of the jet max in through here, and our trough is actually down here. Now, what this is going to do is, as our storm approaches landfall, here's the trough by 15Z Monday. And again, this is nearing the landfall point by late Monday into Tuesday. And you can see here that on the HWRF, the storm now takes on a little bit more of a sheared type look to it. The reason why this storm is now leaving the comfort zone of this upper level anticyclone, as it actually is kind of retrograding off towards the east. At the same time, we also have this trough digging in with our kind of defluent flow out in front of it. So this is our jet max located in through here. And notice the wind flow here at 200 millibars is now out of the west-southwesterly direction. This implies that there is going to be some west-southwest shear that's going to be impinged on the storm. Now, whether or not this actually does hinder intensification right up until landfall remains to be seen, but it does look like we will have some shear, because the actual point of lowest shear in this upper level anticyclone is well towards the south and east now of our storm in the central Gulf of Mexico. And you can see this kind of flow out in front of our trough that's kind of digging in through here, kind of this flow around it. So there will be some shear that will be starting to be impinged on our storm, but just how much is going to be the big question here. Again, right now, prepare for impacts such as 7 to 11 feet of storm surge, winds sustained up to about 100 miles per hour with gusts nearing about 105 to 110, maybe even 120 miles per hour, along with the threat for very heavy rainfall, upwards of 15 plus inches in spots right near and just to the east of the landfall point, because this will be a very slow moving system. You can see that as we progress through Wednesday and then in through the day Thursday, the storm really doesn't move that much. It only moves about 200 miles from the initial landfall point and into portions of Mississippi. And then this will eventually be carried out with this trough digging in through here. This will eventually be carried out into portions of Alabama as a weakening tropical depression. So a lot of rainfall is going to occur for portions of the western Florida peninsula all the way in through Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana over the next several days. Generally, in this area is going to be where the greatest rainfall potential is going to be over the next couple of days. And the highest surge potential is really going to be right to the near and east of the landfall point, all the way into the western Florida peninsula or panhandle to near Cedar Key. We will likely see some storm surge values from that. Now, switching gears here, we're going to be talking about Tropical Depression 20 and what impacts it may bring and where this might go over the next couple of days. First of all, this is kind of starting out. This is 8 a.m. this morning. Again, here's Hurricane Paulette over here. Not really seeing anything showing up in the 500 millibar charts with Tropical Depression Rene because it's weaker and it's not in the mid-levels. We do have this low-level or mid-level kind of feature here, low-level low sitting right near the Azores and Canary Islands. That's showing up pretty nicely. And we also have this ridge showing up here at the 500 millibar layer. So right here, this is kind of the overall circulation here of Tropical Depression 10, or Tropical Depression 20 rather. And we can see that over the next couple of days, we'll go out to the next 48 hours from now, the storm does take on a stronger look to it. It is further west here in this run, and we'll kind of show that there is some differences, that the storm is further towards the south and west here on this run. And we also do get a little bit of a stronger ridge to the north, and this upper level low here is a little bit weaker. But you notice that what we have is pretty light winds here and pretty light ridging across the tropical Atlantic right now. This big kind of high pressure area right through here is not really that strong and is getting weakened by Hurricane Paulette over here. Now if we go to 72 hours and eventually 96 hours, this upper level low once again becomes reestablished, and now this is going to be something that we're going to have to monitor. We do have a ridge that's kind of appearing towards the north, but we also have a storm that is intensifying throughout this time. Now, throughout the last few days, it's been moving off towards the west. Eventually, it starts to do what's called a beta drift. As the storm naturally intensifies, it is naturally getting pulled in a poleward direction, which a poleward direction is north. So this is, in fact, moving towards the northwest, and then by 120 hours, but you see that there is some subtle differences here in just how quickly the storm develops. Not necessarily how strong this ridge is to the north, because again, this ridge isn't all that strong. It is barely a ridge in this area, but our weakness in we do not have a stronger upper level low that's just kind of meandering out in this vicinity. This weakness in an upper level low combined with Tropical Depression 20 not intensifying as quickly gets it further off towards the west. And we've seen that in the latest track guidance here on the 12Z models. Again, the official forecast here, we'll kind of zoom in here, but the official forecast is much more in line. That's the old official. This is the new official forecast in through here, is much more in line now with the latest TVCN, the multimodal consensus, and the GFS forecast, although it is still kind of taking a blend of the Euro and GFS and kind of splitting the difference in between them. So this right here, that's the AVIN, AMIN, and obviously the CMC, the HWRF in through here, and some other models kind of thrown in there. So we have seen an overall change this morning in the track a little bit further westernly. Now, again, what they do note here is that most of the track models are clustered close together, except for the HWRF, which has a trajectory further to the south and west. The newest National Hurricane Center track forecast has been shifted further a bit towards the west compared to the previous prediction, closer to the GFS and Euro consensus, but not as far towards the west as the latest TVCA and the other multi-model consensus guidances. So what this does tell me is that we are likely to still see a couple of differences occur over the next several days. And again, what I do want to kind of stress here is that this is a pretty large envelope of energy here. This kind of stretches out over about 900 miles. So it's almost about 1,000 miles directional from kind of one end to the other end. And that's a pretty large system, and it takes a while for these large systems to get better organized. So it doesn't matter whether or not this necessarily becomes a tropical storm today or tomorrow. But it matters that if this does not intensify quicker, then we are likely to see a further west solution occur. So it is just something to be monitoring. Again, we're not really expecting anything for the Lesser Antilles right here. But if you live in the Lesser Antilles, it just kind of bears watching, as this track is obviously not set in stone over the next several days. So this is going to be something to monitor. All right. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your morning and early afternoon. Of course, I am Michael Ramelli. I'll talk to you guys again some more later this afternoon.